Oh, that's so good. And because I hadn't necessarily thought about it that way. And that's why I asked that question because, thinking of personal examples of times when I got overwhelmed and had a lot of anxiety about schoolwork, I knew what to do, but I'd had so many gaps that like you said earlier, my foundation was unstable because I had holes everywhere. And if somebody went back and showed me this, then I went, like you said, the light bulbs go off and
Yep.
then the confidence goes up. And I would imagine from what you see is how people perform is all based on confidence of what they know.
Yes. And we try to, when we're helping them with homework, that's our opportunity to see what are they working on. And then we tie in what's missing. This is why you need to know this. And now they're like, oh, and so now they start practicing
Hmm.
and it becomes easier for them to do the next step. Because there's more than one way to skin a cat. Well, there's more than one way to come up and solve a math problem. Same way. So yeah,
Right. No, that
to
that's
know.
really good. What would you say are would be good tips for parents like myself if we're seeing some frustration in our children, some questions we should ask, or is there anything specific that you would recommend that we look for that would help us identify challenges like what we just talked about?
So if you see that they're struggling, they definitely need a break. Make sure that the child takes a break, because when you do too much, they tend to get overwhelmed and they may shut down. Every child is different. You don't want them to shut down. So definitely give them a 5-minute break. I usually say about every 30 minutes, a 5-minute break is good. Let the brain just get away from whatever topic whether it's reading, phonics, spelling, SAT, word problems, math. Just let them deter away to have a break, and then let them come back to it. If you see that they're struggling, just say, "Hey, let's go ahead and see what step you're actually confused on." Hopefully, the parent does know math, a little bit of math, because I know some math has changed. But have them go through it, and say, "Okay, this is where you're making the mistake." And if you see that they're making the same mistake on the same step, that's where the light bulb should go on to the parent, and it would be, "Oh, okay, this is what you keep making the same mistake on." Now, if you see a pattern of wrong numbers, if it's more often that they're coming up with the wrong answers because they're multiplying wrong or adding wrong, then there's a deficiency in their multiplication or their addition or subtraction. But you get to see a pattern.
Mm,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
What would
Um,
be like an additional study tip that if somebody's watching this, they could put into to play today or tomorrow with their family that would be helpful?
Repetition, repetition, repetition. If somebody is struggling with a particular topic, they need to practice. It's kind of like a sport, right? If you want to play basketball, you practice. The more practice you do, the better you get. It's the same thing with academics. And of course, the students don't see it that way. They're like, oh, more studying. But that's what they need to do. They need to practice the skill that they're below in. And mathdrills.com is a great resource for parents to go to if you see that your child is, let's say, not improving or struggling with fractions, adding fractions, multiplying fractions. They can go to mathdrills.com, type in fractions in the subject for the search, and it'll give them all these different types of worksheets for them to actually print out and have the child practice. The good thing is they also get the answers on a separate page. So if the parents are not sure, but at least they have the answers to check. But that will give the students some practice of what they just learned.